Historic events rightly attract our attention and our interest. And certainly the events of this past week and the election of its aftermath have done that to us. But we have to be careful whenever we engage or reflect upon any events in history or in time, because we have to be vigilant to always see them in the context of eternity, to see all things and all events as they relate to our eternal destiny in Christ. Our readings today speak about this. They reference where all of the events of this life are leading, what the Old Testament prophets refer to as the day of the Lord, to what Jesus in our gospel speaks of, the days when there will not be left a stone upon another stone. We must always keep in our minds this perspective of the end of time. Like with anything, the end or the goal that we're trying to achieve is what gives meaning to anything we are undertaking. And certainly when we want to address the meaning of events or the meaning of those questions that are in the depth of every human heart about the meaning of life, how we are to live each day, we can only answer them as we keep our eye on the purpose or the end to which all of this is meant to lead. This material world, as great as it is, one day will be no more. For each of us, it will happen at the moment of our death. For all of us, it will happen at the end of time. And that could be today or tomorrow. That's why this truth and this truth alone must be the thing to guide our decision-making. Listen to the prophet Malachi in our first reading. The day is coming blazing like an oven when all the proud and all evildoers will be stubble. But for you who fear my name, there will arise a sun of justice with its healing rays. What totally different images of the same reality. A destructive blaze versus a healing warmth. And then which will be for us is going to be dependent not upon any idle wish, but on how we live our lives. What our priorities are each day, whether each day we strive for a deeper communion in Christ. In today's gospel, Jesus gives us practical examples and advice. First, he says, do not be deceived. Boy, how we need this in our time. There is so much deception out there, so many voices that seek to confuse and confound us. The news coverage and the predictions about last week's election certainly dramatically showed this. Statements that are often made about the end of time, that it is coming, which is absurd that anyone could claim to know that. Why do we listen to these so-called experts who speak such nonsense? Next, Jesus tells us, do not be terrified. How we need to hear this. How fear can grip us so easily. So many filled with anxiety before the election, now so many filled with anxiety after the election. We fail to trust in the providence of God that guides and shapes and directs all things. Jesus reminds us that we are not to prepare our defense beforehand, to not worry about what we must do or say. When he says, I myself will give you a wisdom in speaking that all your adversaries will be powerless to resist or refute, and that not a hair on your head will be destroyed. But by your perseverance, your lives will be secure. We must know this. And it is that trust in God's providence that will then fill us with a sense of joy and confidence despite whatever the events of our time disclose. This is the good news, that our salvation, our hope, our holiness of life is not something that depends upon our efforts, but is God's work. As he promises to always give us everything we need. It does involve us, though, of course, It requires our desire to grow in faith and hope and love. But St. Paul in our second reading gives us an insight as to how simple it is. Basically, we are just to do the work that you and I are called to do each day. And whatever that may be, we are to do it in whatever successes or failures we think we have, with the total trust that God is always working to sustain us. The activities that you and I are called to undertake each day, the events that occur in our world each day, are not meant to stress us out. They are meant to sanctify us. We must never forget that they are all somehow part of God's plan, so that in our working quietly, as St. Paul refers, God is preparing us for that incomparable moment that will come for each of us when we come face to face with Him. That event is not meant to be a cause of any worry or fear. The end of our life that is advancing which each day should not distress us. It is to be anticipated with joy. This passing of time is meant so that we might grow in wisdom, so that we might grow in seeing things in the context of eternity, so that each day may be an opportunity for us to grow in our love of God and our love of one another. Then whenever that moment comes for us, that last day, that day of the Lord, it will not be for us a moment of dread or fear, but of one of calm and of hope, as we long to see Christ, as we hope to experience forever the warmth of His healing rays of love and joy and peace.